Hey guys, welcome back to Horticulture Geek. I'm Ray, and thank you so much for joining me today here on the channel. Today I'm going to be working on some seed starting, and it's a very quick and easy process. But I thought I'd bring you along for a quick video. This won't be too elaborate because everybody's doing seed starting videos this time of year. So the things that I'm going to be using here in the garden is I've got a seed starting tray. This one is purchased from Gardener Supplies, and this is the self-watering seed starting kit. I've got all the rest of the pieces off to the side. I'm also going to be using a sled. This is just a regular sled picked up at a big box store like you go snow sledding or ice sledding in. I'm using this as my containment tray because my seed starting tray fits perfectly inside. My seed starting soil fits perfectly inside, and I can work in the tray without creating a huge mess on my workspace or losing a bunch of soil. This works wonderful for that. And then I'm also going to be using some seed starting mix. Now, when you're doing seeds, it is important that you use a seed starting mix. This mix is light and fluffy. It does not contain big chunks or big pieces of bark that is going to get in the way of your seedlings. It also is formulated to be light and easy draining so that your seedlings don't drown in a lot of excess water. So a seed starting mix is crucial. Don't use regular potting soil or yard soil. Use a seed starting mix. So now that I've walked through everything I need, let's get after it and get our seed starting trays filled up so that we can go in and plant our seeds. All right, so the first thing we need to do is get our seed starting mix, and we're going to pre-wet or pre-moisten our seed starting mix. We need to have it good and saturated to get it into our trays so that it's ready to accept seedlings. All right, now this process may take a few minutes. Just take your time. Depending on how dried out your seed starting mix is, it may want to reject the moisture. And that's exactly what happened here. But if you just take your time and you're patient, you can get that soil to accept the water. And this is another area where an expanded tray comes in handy, because as you saw, I was able to work the soil around the container and keep folding it into the water, okay? Now, what we're looking for here is not a sopping wet mush of soil. We are just looking for soil that holds the shape, and when you squeeze it, there's no water coming out of it. We don't want it to be soppy wet. So this is a balancing act, and you're just gonna have to do the best you can with it. Now, if you get your soil too wet, that's okay. Just let it drain a little bit. So in this situation, if I got my soil too wet, I would try to pour some of the excess water off and then maybe even wring the water out of that soil. But this is perfect. And so now I'm ready to fill my trays. And having it in this container, as you see, allows me to just fling it in there. I don't have to take my time. I don't have to be too precise. I can just work it in there because I'm not going to be losing any soil. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm just lightly tamping the soil down in each one of the cells so that I know that the soil is full in those cell cubes and there's no air pockets in there. I just want to make sure that I've got full soil blocks. And then I can continue filling up as I need in the cells that compact it down. Now, you don't have to be too concerned with trying to form a hard brick here. That's not the goal. The goal is not to form a hard brick, so don't worry about mashing each one down super hard or super firm. You just want it firm to the touch so that you know that there's no big air pockets in there, and that it's a full container of soil for your seedlings to grow into. All right, and there we have it. This is ready to plant. I've got one more to fill up, and I'll do that here in just a second. Okay, we've moved inside so where you can sit down and look. So I've got my seed tray filled up. So as you can see, all of the seeds, the soil area is nice and full, lightly tamped down, ready to go, okay? So here's the seeds I'm gonna be starting today. Now, if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I'm not a huge seed starter. It's a lot of work. You have to be very careful with your seeds. If you let them dry out, you'll kill them. If you overwater them, you kill them. If they get bugs, it could kill them, and they're hard to get rid of because they're so little. Seeds are a lot of work. If you're willing to put the work in and you're patient enough to take care of them, absolutely start seeds. If you don't have a space in your home to do it, if you don't have the equipment to do it, and if you're not a patient enough person to do it, don't do it. Just buy your plants at the garden center or the big box store, wherever you can get them. I'm gonna try to start some things. I'm not the most patient seed starter, which is why it usually doesn't work well for me, but I'm gonna give it a shot and we'll see what happens, and we'll see if I remember to take care of these little babies. So here we go. I'm gonna be trying some delphiniums. I think they're good, they're beautiful. I think they'll work good in my garden. And they're kind of expensive to buy, already pre-grown, so we'll give it a shot. Next thing we're going for is coleus. I like to plant a lot of coleus, and so that adds up. So since I'm going to try to bulk plant them, I'm gonna try to start them from seeds to where I can offset that cost of buying a bunch of coleus. So we'll see how that goes. The next thing is Sarenth, or Pride of Gibraltar. Just looks pretty. Thought I'd give it a shot. So yeah, there's that. The next thing I'm going to be looking at is a double-decker echinacea, which is a double-decker coneflower. Again, these can be a little bit expensive if you can find them in your garden centers. Sometimes you can't even find them because the regular varieties are just more prevalent. Now, a side note to this, whenever you double flower a plant, it makes it hard for insects. So if you're going for a native pollinator garden or something like that, even though coneflowers are native to the United States, this is not. And your local insects, bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, can absolutely not utilize this plant. The way that the flowers double up, it makes it very hard, so it's not going to be beneficial for your bugs. So keep that in mind. So if you're going for a garden that is really beneficial to your bugs and your natives, this ain't it. But it's pretty, so we're going to give it a shot. The next thing is Black-Eyed Susan vine. And I just thought this one was fun because, you know, it's the pinky burgundy one. You can find these sometimes around here in garden centers. I don't know about you. The yellow Black-Eyed Susan vine is definitely able to be found. This is not as readily available. And again, Black-Eyed Susan vines can get expensive, so we'll give it a shot. The next thing we're going to be trying is Tomatia pineapple. This is from Baker Creek, and this is just a generic pack. It's one of their free samples, but it's one of the free samples that I really wanted. So we're gonna give this a try. So this is sometimes also called a pineapple ground cherry, but this is a sweet tomatillo that has a pineapple taste to it. Supposedly are just wonderful. Most gardeners that grow these, they never make it in the house because they're just immediately eaten off the vine as soon as they ripen in the garden. They're that sweet and delicious. So we're gonna give that a shot. And then the final thing I'm gonna try to give a shot to is lupin. It is a little late to start lupin here for me. I should have already started these seeds, but I'm gonna give it a shot and we'll see what we can do, but I'm not gonna try too many of them. So I'll just say that. So that's the other thing when seed starting is you need to make sure that you're planting stuff appropriate for the time frame that you're looking to plant in. Obviously, cold weather, cool season things like a lupin, it's a little late for it, but I may still be able to grow these and get a little bit of color before the hot Arkansas heat takes them out. And these are a perennial, so they should come back if I treat them well enough. Again, we'll see. If you've been following my channel for a while, things in my garden have to be tough and they have to survive. If it starts to wither out, I don't baby plants. So they either got to make it or they got to go. We'll see. All right, so now that we've done all that, I've walked you through the seeds that I'm gonna try to start. I'm just gonna show you seed planting real quick. It's not an overly complicated process. If you, a lot of times, look on the back of your seed packet, it'll tell you the depth at which to plant. If it doesn't, a quick Google search will identify the depth to plant. Some seeds need to be surface sown, which means you literally just sprinkle them on the top of your soil. Some seeds want to be planted, a little bit deeper, so you'll just use your finger or a pencil and create a little pocket, drop your seed in, and then bury it back in, okay? But just look at your seed packet. If your seed packet doesn't tell you, Google it. And that's really that simple. A lot of gardeners will put 2 seeds per cell. Why do we do that? Well, it's because if you've gone to all the trouble to buy this tray, buy this dirt, get the dirt hydrated, get it into your pot, you're ready to go, the last thing you want to do is have empty cells where seeds did not germinate, okay? So you put 2 per cell, typically. Some people put more, and then you thin out. So once they all sprout up, if I have 2 or more seeds per hole here, then I can just come in and remove by cutting. I don't want to pull, but I can cut a couple of those seedlings out just to just leave one good strong seedling that will grow in each tray cell, okay? Now then, let's say if I put 2 seeds in every tray and they all germinate except for one, then nothing germinates in this cell. I can at that point pick a seed tray here, a planting cell, that has maybe 2 really strong looking seedlings and let them get a little strength on them. Okay, so maybe the day I thin, I just leave these 2, let them have a few more days. You know, if you're thinning when your plants are just wee itty bitty little things and they just haven't had enough time to set good roots, you may not want to do this next process. But if I have let 2 grow, I know that they are good and strong. You know, they're a couple inches high. They're starting to develop true leaves, not just their cotyledon or first leaves. And I have a strong suspicion that they have good roots, or I can see good roots. Then I can come in and try to pull those 2 apart. So I will gently remove that soil block and gently pull those 2 apart so that I can put one back in the one cell and one back into the cell that never had anything to fill up my tray, okay? So that is just some basic seed starting techniques. So now I have got to get to the business of actually putting these seeds into this dirt. I've already got my tags, and my handwriting is terrible. It just is what it is. I've got my tags labeled so that I can label my plants so I know where they're at. And then when seed starting, this is a seed starting kit. But I want to put my seed tray, once it's seeded, into this tray. Now this tray is a solid bottom tray. It will allow me to catch any water that falls through the soil. I will mist or lightly water these seedlings in once they're planted. You don't want to run a hose pipe or a kitchen sink faucet or a watering can full force, because all you're going to do is wash your seedlings away, okay? Your seeds. You're just going to wash your seeds away. So once you get your seeds into the soil, you're going to do a very gentle misting water to get every seed moisturized and watered into that soil. And then you're going to put a humidity dome on it to contain that moisture in the system so that your seedlings have what they need. And you're going to check it every day and remist as needed. Now in this particular setup from Gardener Supply, once my seedlings have germinated and I see green coming up. Now again, the first leaves that come off of any plant is called the cotyledon. Those are not your real leaves, they're your baby leaves, okay? But once you see those, once you have sprouting occurring, and then it may take you 2 to 3 days of growth starting, because keep in mind, not every seed is going to germinate and sprout at the same time. So, on day 1, you may see green, sprinkled around your tray. And day 2, so a few more cells will pop. Hopefully by day 3, everything will have popped. And at that point, I can remove my humidity dome. It's no longer needed, it's no longer necessary. And in this system, since it's a self-watering system, I'm going to remove my seed tray from my base. I am going to add in my riser mat, and I'm going to add in my wicking cloth. What does this do? So what I have just done is I have created a water well in this solid tray that my seeds and my soil aren't setting in, but the wicking mat is setting in it. So what will happen is that this wicking mat will suck up the water from the reservoir and pull it across itself so that the whole mat is saturated. And then the seeds, you can see there's little holes under there. The soil can then absorb that water as needed, and your seedlings will put roots down towards that water and they will absorb it as needed, but they're not setting in water, they're not drowning. So this is a complete system from Gardener Supply, and I really appreciate it and enjoy it. So that's really all there is to seed starting, folks. Once you've got some seed starting soil, you've figured out a mechanism to get that soil hydrated and into your trays, you've picked out your trays, you've got yourself ready to go, then there's nothing left but to put your seeds, per their instructions, into the dirt, mist them in, and set back and hope for the best. Now don't be like me, don't forget about your seedlings. Check on them every day. If they need a little extra water, give it to them. Once they get up to some height, some size, if you have a fan, it's recommended to have a fan blowing on them to help strengthen those plants. And then a lot of people will come in with vermiculite. I don't have any with me here today, but vermiculite or sand to sprinkle across the top. That is to prevent bugs. Your white flies or your some other little bugs that actually get into the soil, they don't like crawling through sand or vermiculite, because sand, is just very finely crushed but very jagged material. It'll slice them open, it'll kill them. So you'll see that in a lot of YouTube videos of people starting seeds. If you have clean sand or vermiculite and you want to go through that step, absolutely go through that step. If you don't keep your soil overly moist and you keep on top of the problems, then hopefully you will never develop any problems. The alternative, if you do collect pests, then try to treat it as best you can. Now, if you're growing a vegetable crop, you probably are not going to want to douse those seedlings in any sort of chemical that's going to stay in the plant. So you might have to discard that tray and get rid of it and start over. And if you're doing a whole bunch of trays, if you have 5, 6, 10 of these, if one catches a problem, get it away from everything else. Quarantine it. Don't let those problems take out everything else you're growing. So those are my basic tips for seed starting. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I won't actually make you suffer through watching me put tiny little seedlings in soil. You've probably seen that before. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. Maybe it's inspired you and shown you something maybe that was a different take on how to do these things. Seriously, the sled as your potting tray is amazing. If you can find those late in the season, maybe on a winter clearance rack right now, go get one. If not, order one from Amazon or wherever you can find one. It really is a game changer to contain all that mess. And if you've been gardening for a while, you're really going to appreciate that sled. It comes in so handy to do all your potting up needs because it catches everything and just it makes life. And the way that sled, I didn't show you this out there, but the way that sled is kind of pointed at the end, once you're done, if you have extra soil, you can dump it right back into your bag or your soil container, however you store your soil. All right, that's enough of me rambling today. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, give me that thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. And as always, from my garden to yours, I wish you all the best and happy gardening.